karma, all it really means is that sometimes we do bad things together. Somebody asked me this on September the 11th, that all those people who died in the Twin Towers, they died together. Was that the result of some karma they did together? And I thought about it, it could be. Because sometimes people go to war, and together they kill other people. Whole battalions, go firing. Whole battleships, help press those buttons of the cruise missiles. Now we all take responsibility if we do bad karma as a group, and sometimes we receive the karma as a group. There are gang people and torture them. There are gangs who run prostitution rackets. Human beings. Before, many years ago, we had racism, where white people, that's basically gone now. There's only a few remnants of stupidity left in the world. But we still have what's called speciesism now. We think as human beings we are so superior than the animals, and that's why we exploit them, put them in cages in the zoo, and also why we eat them, and we exploit them for our furs or our coats, because we think that animals don't feel pain. We think that animals are not real human, they're not like us. That's what the British used to say about the Africans. They're not like us, that's why we can enslave them and make them serve us. And now we say that about animals. But Buddhism never said that about animals. We always respected animals as beings, living beings. And I think if our world actually respected the animal kingdom, that these are living beings who feel pain. I've seen animals cry. Have you? And I will tell a story tomorrow about the cow which cried. I've seen parrots in grief. You might have seen dogs and cats who are very, very alert, intelligent, hardly any different. There's parrots who can hold conversations with you. There was Coco the gorilla in New York Zoo who could speak in sign language intelligently. The distinction between animals and human beings is not as great as people would like to know. And if you actually get rid of this terrible speciesism, where we think human beings are so superior than anybody else, especially the animal kingdom, then I think we won't have things like the diseases going from the animals to the human beings. Maybe it is their revenge for wiping them out and eating them. Maybe, I don't know. Go on.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Thing. I wrote a question on one of the slip of paper. It's on positive forgiveness.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I agree with what you said about practicing positive forgiveness when raising children and in most other cases. But I am surprised, and I don't understand when you explain that we should also practice forgiveness in an abusive relationship. It's very hard to do because, personally, my mom was in an abusive relationship. And what many women go through when they're in an abusive relationship, it's because they have very low self-esteem and they get into a helpless condition. They feel helpless. And it's a very dependent kind of love. It's not the kind of love that, it's more like a self-sacrificial love. It's not a healthy kind of love. And this woman that you talked about, she went through 7 years more of hardship, practicing positive forgiveness. But a lot of women go through, stay in an abusive relationship for years and years because they also hope that someday their husbands would change. Could be because of that. What about, having a self-esteem?
Yes.
Good self-esteem, and when does that end? When should a woman decide, when her karma should end, that she doesn't deserve this kind of torture in her life?
Indeed, yes. It's a very good question. That woman who I'm talking about was a great hero. She was courageous, and she did something which very few people could do. But it's a wonderful lesson on how to end that karma. Every abusive relationship is different, and sometimes that people generalize over much and think all women go through the same. This is one of the problems with sociology. We tend to, just for the ease, to generalize and think that there's a set pattern for all abusive relationships, and you always have to do it the same way, always leave, always depart. But there's other ways of doing things, and I'm suggesting here a wonderful Buddhist example of doing these things. Just hoping is not enough. That's not positive. Just sitting down and doing nothing and hoping the cake will somehow bake itself. Life requires huge amounts of effort, sometimes courageous effort. And my purpose of coming here this evening to Singapore is to try and raise your level of inspiration so you can actually do what is uncommon in the world. Because if you leave that relationship, okay for you maybe, but what about the other person? I'm supposed to be a Theravada monk who only thinks about themselves, but I think about others as well. And if a person can help somebody else, help that abusive husband, which can be done, and if you can do that as well, isn't that even superior than just helping yourself? If it can be done. I'd understand if a woman in an abusive relationship decides to leave, can't stand it any longer. They're at the limit of their abilities, but sometimes we underestimate ourselves, and sometimes that we can just rise to the occasion and surpass our expectations, what people expect of us, because there is low self-esteem when we give up. But when we never give up, when we have faith, hope, courage, is that low self-esteem. It actually raises your self-esteem. It's taking control of the relationship. It's actually empowering you, saying, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to bake a cake. To hell with the ingredients. They're poor or whatever. Instead of complaining, I'm going to do something about this. And there's nothing which you can't do in this life, what I've found. If you have faith, if you have courage, even you can rise much further than is ever expected of you. Sometimes we limit ourselves far too much. One of the things which I found, if you believe you can do it, you do. So give it a go. If anyone has that courage to try, whatever your problems in life, whatever the difficulties, be inspired by the examples which I read out, by which you see, which you know. They inspire you to also be able to do this. As I said, a good coach tells the inferior player they're as good as anybody else. And because the coach inspires self-belief, not low self-esteem, but the belief you can achieve whatever, then a good coach always has winners for their sports people. So I'm coaching you. I'm saying that you can, even in an abusive relationship, you can, through that positive forgiveness, inspire and change the people you live with, and also inspire and change yourself. Whatever you do in life, never give up. Never think that society, life, karma is against you. Always get up there. Positive forgiveness. Make good karma, and more good karma, and great good karma. And then you'll win. Whatever battle you fight, you will always win.
Okay. Thank you.
Go.
Got 15 minutes and 28 questions.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to combine these
Keep
two.
trying, you'll win.
I'm going to combine two questions. If Buddhism is a way of life and not a religion, can you be a Buddhist and a Christian at the same time? And if we're always forgiving even the bad people and then they commit crimes and seek forgiveness, I don't agree with that. Please, can I have your opinion?
Okay. First of all, you can call Buddhism a religion, you can call Buddhism a way of life. It's just names. But if you want to be a Buddhist and a Christian as well why not? You can go to church, and you can go to the temple, you can go wherever you want. You can eat Chinese food, you can eat American food, you can eat Indian food. Just wherever you get a good meal, go for it. So if you get a good Christian teacher, a good Buddhist teacher, a good Hindu teacher, whatever, and they say good things, then go and learn. That's our life. With forgiveness, one of the reasons why we think we shouldn't forgive is because we think people aren't worthy of forgiveness. Could you forgive Adolf Hitler for what he did to the Jews in the Second World War? Or was he really a bad guy? I've got another poem for you. I don't care if you're going to go late, never mind. Questions I'll try and answer next time. A poem about a love for a mother. When your mother has grown old, think about your mother as I read this. When your mother has grown older and you have grown older, when what was formerly easy and effortless for her becomes a burden, when her dear, loyal eyes do not look out into life as before, when her legs have grown tired and don't want to carry her anymore, then give her your arm for support and accompany her with gladness and joy, because the hour will come when, weeping, you will accompany your mother on her last journey. So if she asks you, answer her, and if she